Real quick, make sure you subscribe if you've been watching a few videos of mine. I'd really appreciate it. All right, on to the video. Few video game franchises have managed to capture the hearts of players quite like Ni No Kuni. It is a magical series created by Level 5 and infused with the charm of Studio Ghibli. It's a rare gem in the world of gaming. It has stunning art styles and a very heartfelt story, and the franchise quickly earned a very devoted fan base. But despite its strong start, the series has been noticeably quiet in recent years, faded away, or disappeared. Well, let's see what happened to Ni No Kuni. Let's take a look at its journey and where it might go from here. The story of Ni No Kuni began with Ni No Kuni: Dominion of the Dark Djinn, a Japanese exclusive release for the Nintendo DS in 2010. The game's ambition was immediately clear, featuring a unique mechanic where players used an in-game book, a physical companion to the DS game, to solve puzzles and cast spells, which is such a novel way to interact with a video game. It probably would be pretty annoying now, but this was released in 2010, and I feel like extra just outside of the actual game was all the rage. Guitar Hero, the Wii, the Connect, all that stuff, just stuff outside of the screen was pretty cool. But this was the coolest because it was a spell book, so it was automatically S tier. While it was a hit in Japan, the game's true breakthrough came with its enhanced PlayStation 3 version, Ni No Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch, in 2011. This version introduced fully animated cutscenes crafted by Studio Ghibli, alongside an expanded story and polished gameplay. The sequel, Ni No Kuni 2: Revenant Kingdom, arrived in 2018. Though it lacked direct involvement from Studio Ghibli, the game retained much of the original's charm, thanks to Ghibli alumni like Yoshiyuki Momose and composer Joe Hisaishi. With an expanded focus on real-time combat and kingdom-building mechanics, the sequel sought to innovate while staying true to the spirit of the original game. While that was the vision, I will get into why Ni No Kuni 2 didn't quite stick the landing later on in the video. So, the heart of Ni No Kuni lies in its storytelling, which blends emotional depth with whimsical charm. The first game, Wrath of the White Witch, follows Oliver, a young boy whose journey is sparked by a deeply personal loss. Spoiler, this happens at the beginning of the game. After his mother dies saving him from drowning, Oliver discovers a magical doll named Drippy, who comes to life and reveals the existence of a parallel world. With the hope of saving his mother's soul, Oliver sets off on a grand adventure to defeat the Dark Djinn Shadar and restore balance to both worlds. The narrative's strength lies in its exploration of grief, resilience, and the power of love, all delivered through a fairy tale lens. Characters like Drippy add levity to the story, balancing its darker themes with humor and heart, as does any classic fairy tale. Ni No Kuni 2: Revenant Kingdom tells a different kind of story. It's set hundreds of years after the first game. It follows Evan Hedawhisker Tildrum, a young king overthrown in a coup. What a name. With the help of Roland, a president from another world, Evan embarks on a quest to build a new kingdom founded on peace and unity. The game explores themes of leadership, diplomacy, and hope, with a lighter, more political tone compared to the deeply personal narrative of its predecessor. The story is bolstered by a colorful cast of characters, of course, all these allies each bringing unique personalities and backstories to the table. While both games excel in creating immersive, heartfelt stories, Ni No Kuni 2 faced criticism for its less than impactful narrative. Some fans felt that Evan's journey lacked the emotional depth of Oliver's, and the stakes, although grand, didn't quite resonate as strongly on a personal level. The game's attempt to weave a more expansive political narrative sometimes diluted the intimacy that defined the original and made it so loved, and I definitely agree. I guess, it is obviously personal preference. I'm just the type of person that I enjoy the very personal stories between individuals, individual growth, and more than the sweeping political storylines. And that's just how I've always been. And yeah, that's definitely just a personal thing. But for me, I have to agree with the wider audience who kind of felt that way. But it is impossible to talk about Ni No Kuni without mentioning its jaw-dropping visuals. The art direction, which was heavily inspired, or I guess exclusively inspired by Studio Ghibli's hand-drawn animation, makes every frame look like a moving painting. It's not hyperbole. Whether it's lush forests, sprawling cities, or magical otherworldly realms, the game's environments are alive with color and detail, and it is so good to look at. This game will never get old graphically. It just won't. It looks too good. Character designs, crafted by Ghibli's own Yoshiyuki Momose, are equally stunning, bringing each personality to life with expressive faces and whimsical outfits. The cutscenes animated by Studio Ghibli themselves for the first game are the cherry on top, giving players the feelings of watching a Ghibli film unfold in real time. Even in the sequel, which lacked direct Ghibli animation, the art style stayed true to its roots, ensuring the series retained its signature look. I know that when this game first released, the hook for me, other than the fact that it was a JRPG, the hook was the animation, because I grew up on Studio Ghibli. My favorite Ghibli movies, probably My Neighbor Totoro. Spirited Away is a very close second. The thought of being able to play like a Studio Ghibli movie in a JRPG, I was sold. Give it to me twice. Give it to me once, actually. That sounded really dirty. I'll take one Studio Ghibli movie video game, please. The gameplay of Ni No Kuni is just as memorable as its visuals and story. The first game combines traditional JRPG mechanics with a creature collecting system. Players capture and train magical familiars, each with unique abilities and evolutions. Combat features a blend of real-time action and turn-based strategy, which required players to manage their team's strengths and weaknesses. Ni No Kuni 2, on the other hand, introduced more dynamic, action-oriented combat and added kingdom-building mechanics. Players could manage resources, recruit civilians and citizens, and expand their kingdom. While this shift from the first game divided some fans, it also demonstrated the developers' willingness to evolve the gameplay while keeping it accessible and engaging. However, Ni No Kuni 2 did have its fair share of drawbacks. The removal of familiars, a beloved feature from the first game, was a disappointment for many, myself included, and the kingdom building mechanics, while it was innovative and a departure and different from the first game, it felt a little repetitive after a while, and it pretty quickly lost its allure. Also, the combat system was simplified and kind of dumbed down a little bit. Think the battle pacing of like a Tales game, but I think it lacked the depth of even a Tales game. These changes left some fans feeling that the sequel sacrificed complexity for accessibility. And no, I don't think the first game is super complex anyways, but Ni No Kuni 2 for me is even less complex than that. The second game didn't quite reach the same heights as the first. I get what they were doing. I get what they were going for. They kept the same art style, but they changed the gameplay loop. But I think for this particular series, that's not what was needed. I think doubling down on the mechanics of the first game was the way to go. Expand on the familiar system, make combat even more in-depth without changing too much of it. Telling another more intimate and personal story, whether it's about Oliver again, in a new scenario, or a new main character completely, would be the way I would have gone. But let me know what you think. Do you think they should have just evolved the game the way they did, or kind of doubled down on what made the first one so great? But that being said, what truly sets Ni No Kuni apart from probably any other JRPG, or maybe even RPG, except for maybe one I can think of, is its ability to evoke a sense of childlike wonder. It's a series that invites players to lose themselves in a magical world filled with hope, adventure, and heart. The combination of Studio Ghibli's artistry, Joe Hisaishi's enchanting music, and Level 5's polished gameplay creates an experience that feels timeless. Players often describe Ni No Kuni as a playable fairy tale, and that's no exaggeration. Few games can match its blend of emotional storytelling, breathtaking visuals, and engaging mechanics. And to go back, the other game that I feel kind of evokes this sense of childlike wonder, not in the same tone necessarily, but just in the same way, is the original Fable. Maybe I'll make a video about Fable one of these days. Love me some Fable. What the hell happened to you too? Wrath of the White Witch was both a critical and commercial success. The game did sell over 1.1 million copies within the first year of release, eventually surpassing 2.8 million copies. That is counting the remastered versions. Critics praise its visuals, story, nostalgic gameplay, and some called it the best JRPG of its generation. Audience reception mirrored this enthusiasm as players fell in love with its blend of whimsy and emotional depth. Ni No Kuni 2, on the other hand, performed very well, but not quite reaching that level of sales. It sold over 900,000 copies within the first few months, and eventually it did cross 1.5 million. While reviews were generally positive, some critics noted that the sequel's more action-oriented combat and lighter tone didn't quite capture the same magic as the first game. Despite these mixed feelings, Ni No Kuni 2 was celebrated for its ambitious kingdom-building mechanics and the art style, of course, solidifying the series' reputation as a standout in the RPG genre. So what happened, right? There is no more Ni No Kuni, not really. Despite the success and passionate fan base, Ni No Kuni has largely faded from the spotlight. After the release of Ni No Kuni 2, there have been very few updates on the franchise's future. There was a mobile spinoff, Ni No Kuni Crossworlds, which was released. It didn't really capture any of the magic as the mainline series, and it was quickly forgotten, leaving many fans yearning for more. I kind of thought this was, when it was released, I don't play mobile games, but I thought maybe this was the start of kind of the marketing of a new Ni No Kuni game, but clearly that wasn't the case. One of the reasons for the series' decline is the changing priorities of its developer, Level 5. Over the years, Level 5 has shifted its focus, reducing its emphasis on large story-driven console games, or PC for that matter. This shift is partly driven by financial challenges, including reduced international operations and a changing landscape in the gaming industry where mobile games dominate the Japanese market. As Level 5 adapted to these trends, Ni No Kuni seemed to basically fall by the wayside. Another factor is the absence of Studio Ghibli's direct involvement after the first game. While Ghibli alumni contributed to Ni No Kuni 2, the full collaboration with the iconic animation studio was what truly set the original apart. It's what got me excited for Ni No Kuni in the first place. That's the only reason I bought it. Maybe not the only reason, but it was the biggest reason I bought Ni No Kuni 1 was the collab with Ghibli. Without the same level of Ghibli's influence, the sequel, while beautiful, lacked some of the distinctive magic that made the first game feel like an interactive Ghibli film. The evolving expectations of players also played a role. The original Ni No Kuni thrived as a nostalgic callback to classic JRPGs, the genre itself becoming more and more niche over the years. It's having to compete with modern fast-paced action RPGs and open-world titles, and that may have made it a little bit harder for Ni No Kuni to stand out despite its unique qualities. Lastly, the series' reliance on a specific aesthetic and tone might have limited its appeal in the long term. It does have a charm and a whimsy that does resonate with its devoted audience, but the broader gaming market's appetite for grittier, more complex narratives may have left Ni No Kuni at somewhat of a disadvantage. As a result, the franchise, while beloved, struggled to maintain mainstream momentum. That being said, Japanese media is blowing up like exponentially, it feels like every year. Anime, Ghibli. I really think that they would be smart to release another Ni No Kuni game. I'm telling you, that's what my gut tells me. The West is becoming obsessed with Japanese culture. It's crazy. I could never have imagined this when I was a kid, when I was called a dork for watching Dragon Ball Z. Trust me on this. So, moving on. The Ni No Kuni series holds a special place in the hearts of fans because it's more than just a set of games. It is an experience that captures the magic of storytelling, the beauty of animation, and the joy of exploration. With its breathtaking art, enchanting music, and heartfelt tales of courage, loss, and hope, the series feels like it's stepping into a playable fairy tale. It invites players to escape into worlds filled with wonder and possibility, leaving them with memories as vivid and warm as those of a cherished childhood story. While the series has gone quiet, its legacy continues to shine brightly, reminding us of the power of games to inspire, heal, and connect us to something larger than ourselves. The love fans have for Ni No Kuni ensures that its magic will endure, and perhaps one day we'll get to return to its beautiful, whimsical worlds once more. Alright, that's all I got for you today. Again, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. If you've been here a couple times and you watch a couple videos of mine and you've enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing. It would mean a lot to me. If this is your first video, I hope it was enough to earn your subscription. If not, no hard feelings. Just thank you for watching anyways. And let me know some memories of yours with Ni No Kuni. Do you think it can make a comeback? Like I said, I think there is a place for a Ni No Kuni game. I'm not saying every Japanese thing needs to come over to the West or every Japanese inspired thing. I just think there is an audience, for a big audience in the West, for Japanese culture, Japanese games, Japanese animations and styles. And yeah, I think it could, if marketed right, could be a big game again. Anyways, let me know what you think. You guys have a great day and God bless.